Welcome back to the Freelancers Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast that you can enjoy whilst you're making a cuppa. I'm Emma Cossey, a coach for freelancers, and I'm here to chat to you about tips, tricks, and advice for freelancers. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a joint episode. This week I've got a guest called Kelly Cookson on, and Kelly, I'm really excited about this one because Kelly's going to talk about marketing, but also positive psychology and something called lean marketing. So I think these are going to be really interesting topics to dive into, especially as a freelancer. So first of all, Kelly is a marketing strategist and positive psychology coach. Kelly, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me, by the way. I'm super excited to dive into marketing and pos psych as well. Two topics I'm very passionate about. So I run my own business. It's called Cheer Up Marketing, and I am 3.5 years into it now. So I've been on a journey from sort of freelancing and then branching out into doing some online programs and that kind of thing. But my background is I'm a marketer by trade. So I've clocked up 15 years now doing marketing. And prior to setting up my own business and going freelance, I was a marketing manager for a software company. So I've actually got a degree in business and marketing, and I experimented with loads of weird side hustles after having my daughter and thinking I want to make some cash on the side. And it wasn't until I started actually side hustling as a marketer that I realized, it's actually quite easy to make money doing marketing, which is something I'm trained in. Who knew that that would be the thing to do? So I guess I probably side hustled for it was 9 months, I think, before I realized that I was making half of my corporate salary almost in my spare time. Like my salary was pretty lean because I was working 3 days a week after coming back from mat leave. But I said to my husband, I reckon if I actually marketed myself and went all out with this business, I could at least make what I'm making in my corporate job. So I took the leap, started this business in January 2020, which was perfect timing with the pandemic coming 3 months later. But I do feel very lucky because the clients that I had and that I won, they all marketed their way through the pandemic. So I actually didn't lose any business. I gained business. But fast forward like 2 years, I went through all kinds of journey that most freelancers go through, realizing I was vastly undercharging and I had the wrong clients. So basically started again 6 months in and broke up with 90% of my clients, niched into email marketing of all things. And then a couple of years after that, it would have been summer last year, 2022, I discovered positive psychology. I always knew that I needed some kind of mindset support in my business. You know what it's like when you work for yourself, it's a roller coaster. So I learned about positive psychology and decided that I wanted to bring that in just for myself, but also for my clients, because by that point, my business had evolved into sort of mentoring people with their marketing strategy. And I'd find that a lot of solopreneurs, women that I work with, like myself, I'd give them a marketing strategy and then there'd be this block, this mindset block. So I thought, right, I need to do something about this, hence learning positive psychology. So these days I blend smart marketing, lean marketing strategies, content marketing, and positive psychology. That's me in a nutshell.
So I definitely want to dig into the lean marketing and the marketing side a bit more. Okay. But first of all, I'd love to know a bit more about what positive psychology is.
Yeah, okay. So most of us are aware of traditional psychology. And actually, I did psychology A-level, and that's all about dealing with mental disorders and things going wrong. So we treat issues with psychology, and there's research in that. Positive psychology is actually about building on the good things in life and strengthening your mindset around living a fulfilled, happy life. So if you are interested in this at all, I would start by looking up Professor Martin Seligman, who is like the founder of positive psychology. But what it's not is about toxic positivity. So that's sticking a smile on and pretending everything's okay. It's actually about building up your resilience. And when things get tough, and I always tie this back to entrepreneurship, so we're all going to face challenges, but it's about how you can then boost your positive emotions to help you balance out the negative. And something that I learned about pos psych that really made me think, gosh, every entrepreneur needs this, is the research around this shows that 50% of how positive you feel is down to your genetics. Only 10% of how positive you feel is down to your environment. So there were some fascinating studies done on people living in abject poverty and some really less than ideal situations. And that didn't actually influence their happiness and their well-being as much as you might think. So that leaves a huge 40% of how positive you feel within your control. So I thought, right, if there are interventions I can learn or exercises, tools and tricks that I can use to boost that 40% up when things get tough in life and business, amazing. And then on top of that, there's some more research that has shown when you feel more positive and engaged, you can boost your productivity by 20 to 30%. So I was thinking, well, as someone who works part-time around their 6-year-old and school hours and everything that's going on with school strikes and stuff, who doesn't need to be 20 to 30% more productive at work? So that's where it really got me excited about feeling better, really connecting with the work that I'm doing and learning more about positive psychology to, have a good life and also be mega productive at work.
That's incredible, because I'm actually just learning, I don't know if I've got the book here. Oh yeah, Positive Intelligence. I've just started reading the
cool
book by Tremaine, I can't pronounce it. But it is incredible, the difference. And I suppose actually, if you're learning this, did you start to learn this before COVID or after?
It was after. Yeah. So with starting my business just before COVID, I'll be honest, I didn't do any mindset work in my corporate life. I think we brought in DISC assessments for senior management, but me being middle management, I didn't get any of that. So I didn't actually know what mindset was really until I started my own business and realized that when you're sitting on your own, trying to, grow a business or figure out all the things, that you have to really bolster yourself and really dig deep sometimes to feel that motivation to get up, do the work, or, you get things like imposter syndrome come up or money mindset around pricing. It's a whole raft of things that come up. And it wasn't until sort of 6 months in that I started to question, well, I've got all of these clients, I'm not charging enough money, I don't love this business that I've created, and it had the real potential to take over my life and not be the reason that I started it, which was to spend more time with my daughter and take her to and from school and everything. So that's when I first started learning about what mindset is in terms of how we look at it as an entrepreneur. And then it wasn't until probably the beginning of 2022 when I got some coaching and learned about positive psychology then. And I loved it because it's so practical and everything's backed in science and research. There are studies you can read around, like the practice of gratitude, for example, which is a really simple thing that everyone can do. List 3 things that you're grateful for every day. And it's been proven to lift people's mood. People with acute depression have found that their symptoms have been alleviated from that simple practice of tapping into, right, can I look around and think of 3 things, just 3 small things that I'm grateful for today? And it just, like I said, it blew my mind that you could do these things, feel better, feel more engaged and motivated to show up online and be an entrepreneur and do all of the things. And I honestly credit the mindset journey that I've been on with a huge part of my success. So I've built my business to a 6-figure annual turnover, and I only work 20 hours a week, and it's just me. I've got a VA, and until very recently, I now have an online business manager. So I feel really proud that I've built that up. And a lot of that was mindset. I had to get that right to get that success.
Do you see any kind of common challenges people find with their mindset?
Yeah, I think it's the belief that they can actually do the thing. So in positive psychology, we can map goals to hope. So hope is a big theme in positive psychology. People who are high in hope, like I am actually, if you're interested in finding out what character strengths you have, by the way, there's a great free survey you could take called the VIA, Character Strengths Survey. We could maybe share the link with your listeners. But one of the 24 character strengths that these psychologists have recognized, one of them is hope. So luckily for me, it's in my top 5. So I'm very high in hope, but we have to have hope for the future and think about that as an entrepreneur or a freelancer. You have to believe that your business is going to take you somewhere and give you the thing that you want. Otherwise, why get out of bed every day and overcome the challenges that you're going to have? When we look at goal setting in positive psychology, there's a tool called hope mapping, which is really nice. So you can take yourself from the goal. What is it that I actually want to achieve? And actually, I was listening to one of your podcasts this morning, Emma, where you talk about what obstacles might you need to overcome. In positive psychology, we use that in hope mapping. And you can also look at support systems. So I think very often we set goals, but we don't look at who around us, including the people that we have at home, friends and family, can support us to get to our goals. So I think that's one of the things that I love sharing with my clients, and I do regularly for my own goals, is hope mapping. Where do I want to be? Why do I want to be there? So we often get fixated on money as well. I think, well, if I want to make £10,000 in my business in a month, why? What do I actually want that money for? Connecting with a deeper kind of mission and purpose as well has really helped me to, move the business forward and do the do.
I think one thing I see people do a lot is have that initial plan something out, get excited about it, get excited about the goal, but maintaining that positivity to reaching the goal rather than just past the planning stage seems to be a common problem.
Yeah. So something that I like to do is regularly check back in with the goal and the why. So again, thinking about, okay, you might have a monetary goal. That's an easy one to set. Like, I want to bring in 3 clients this month or quarter or whatever. Why? Like, what does that actually mean for you? And it can be around job satisfaction as well. It doesn't always need to be about the money. Like, maybe you want to prove, if you're relatively new to business, I'm thinking like win a new client that's really like fulfilling and you're going to do a great project that you're going to enjoy. I think for me as well, a lot of it comes back to what it affords our family, because I want to be able to have the quality time with my husband and my daughter. So that money that I make in my business in the 20 hours a week that I work, that gives us, the funds to go off and have a holiday together or do things after school or days out and that kind of thing. So I really get excited about what my business means for my lifestyle. Yeah, so connecting in with that as well is really important to keep you on track, and checking with your goals regularly would be my advice, like daily if you can. Open up that hope map or wherever you're mapping out what you need to do and why.
This is definitely, I'm very on board with this, and it's one of the things when we do goal setting in my membership, I suggest that people write down their goals every single day, not just to embed it in your brain more, but to relive that excitement about it. It's so easy to set the goal and forget it.
Yeah, and we write them down, or we just think about things, even if you don't write them down. But I love that. And I love journaling, which is also a key thing in positive psychology. So at bedtime every day, I'll write down the 3 things that I'm grateful for. But before I do that, actually, I write down 3 wins, which could be around, usually one of them is about my business. So it might be, I sent an email newsletter out today, or I won a new client, or I made a sale, or I really did a great job for that client and we had great rapport and it was awesome. I normally put in a wellness goal as well. So the other thing that really motivates me around my business is it lets me have time to go and do gym classes and sit in the sauna. So I love the sauna. I'm like obsessed with it at the gym. So if I can get in there in the middle of the day when it's just retired people milling about, I feel like I've made it in life. And so a win for like wellness might be, I swam today and had some time in the sauna. And then I normally put down a family win as well. So, I read bedtime stories, or I took my daughter off to do rock climbing or something cool. And then write down the goals. So I have these things, the gratitude, the wins, and remember what is my goal for this month. And I'll write that down just to connect with it again.
Love it. So one thing you also mentioned a little bit earlier that I want to dive into, lean marketing.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more, because I think it's a term you came up with or you've been using a lot in your business. So a bit more about the story behind that.
So one of the problems that I see with most business owners, solopreneurs, I think are most guilty of this, is that they prioritize their clients all the time and don't get any marketing done. And I think this then leads to feast and famine, where things are great, I'm fully booked, I haven't got time for marketing because I'm delivering for my clients. And then maybe a client project finishes or you lose a client or whatever. And then you're like, oh my God, I need to market because I've got a gap now and I need to fill that gap. So this is very common. And I think one of the things that puts people off doing their marketing is they're coming at it from the wrong way and they're spending way too much time on the wrong things. So I have, from my 15 years experience of doing marketing, I know what actually moves the needle in terms of growing an audience, getting them to connect with your message, and then moving them along the buyer's journey to actually become a client from a lead. And the short version of this is it's not necessarily posting on social media every single day and having that as your marketing strategy. I think we do need to be on social media. And I am there. I have a Facebook group. I am also on Instagram and LinkedIn, but I have an email list. And one of the biggest time drains that comes back to this idea of lean marketing or being smart with your time is to not start your marketing strategy with, I need to write 30 posts for Instagram this month or wherever you're online, because that is one hell of a big job. And I think it takes hours and hours to create all of that content. and you're creating it for somebody else, not for yourself. So Mark Zuckerberg, basically, you're creating all of your content for his platforms. You're putting all of that creative energy in there, all of that time. And then, if it's Twitter, it disappears in the blink of an eye, or Instagram hangs around for a couple of days, or stories delete in 24 hours. And then you're on that treadmill again. So I think my biggest takeaway to give you on this short episode, what your listeners can implement, is to flip this on its head. So always approach my marketing, and I recommend you try this if you've not done it before, with creating a long form piece of content first. So you put all of your creative juice into that and think carefully about what it is that you're selling that particular month or quarter. Work backwards from that goal. So your marketing objective is to sell X amount of spaces in your one-to-one, or if you have a group program or a membership, what's the goal for that? Working backwards from that, think, right, my ideal client for this sale, this objective, what do they need to know and understand about this product, this offer, this service, the work that I do for them to want to buy it? And then your content needs to educate them on that and move them along that buyer's journey. So if you can, over the coming months, build up key pieces of long form content on your website. So it might be a blog is an obvious one. Podcasts are a great way to do this. Maybe YouTube or like video content somewhere. Then you build up this library of assets that are on your website for people to come and find you and understand why they should care about what it is that you do and work with you. Then you take that content and you chop it up. You can take one-liners, paragraph here and there, or even give it to a VA or a copywriter to chop up for you and throw that at social media. So honestly, just that simple shift has saved me hours of time of not going, I need to write 30 Instagram posts. It's like, I'm going to do a blog. I'm going to do some guest expert podcast sessions like this one. And then I can chop all of that stuff up, give it to my VA. She schedules it on social media. Job done.
I love that, because I'm a big fan of when you're setting your goals, look at where you want to be in 90 days and work back from there. Big fan of repurposing content, essentially. But you're kind of bridging that gap beautifully between working out what you want to sell and then, working backwards from that. I love that, because it just makes it so much simpler. Because I think we all do. And funny enough, just before this episode comes out, I think Viv's episode comes out, Viv Guy, who we talked about not using social media.
Oh, okay, yes.
I think it was a similar message in that be so much more purposeful in what you're doing, rather than just throwing things at a wall and look at what sticks. This seems so much more intentional.
Yeah, exactly. I think people get in this flap of, I need to be showing up, I need to be visible, which you absolutely do, but be intentional with it. And, over time, it's a long game. A lot of the time is marketing, especially when you think about organic traffic in your website, but building that library of content that's going to be on there forever. You can tweak it as your business evolves, or maybe your messaging changes slightly, but building your own house first and then giving not the leftovers, but like the little snippets and things to social media just feels so much better. And I think in terms of like your 90-day framework that you use, so I always approach it as every month I have one, what I call a VIP topic. So right, this month I'm going to talk about, lean marketing could be an example, like how people are wasting their time and what they should be doing, and that then moves people along the journey to wanting to work with me to get more support on that. So that might be like topic for month one in a particular quarter. Another topic might be around email marketing, because that's also a great time saver and you're building an asset in an email list. But whatever it is, I'm thinking about the end thing that I'm going to sell. So at the end of that 90 days, I want to have X amount of people in my online email marketing program that I have, so the messaging needs to fit to that. And I think you just feel so much more like less like you're on that hamster wheel of content creation and more like, I'm doing this for a reason. Just a little bit more considered about what it is that your audience needs to know to then want to buy from you.
No, I love that. Yeah, my brain's whirring now with how to use that, because that's so useful. And I think as well, we are all so overwhelmed with all the things. And at the time of recording, Threads just come out. So
I'm not on it.
I am on it and I love it. But it is, although the thing I am liking there is that people don't seem to be using a strategy at the moment. They're just enjoying sharing. So I probably won't even use it for business. So this could change in a month's time. But anyway, I think social media can just be so dominating of your business. And I just love the idea of that job speaker. I'm not wording this very well, but basically I love the fact that it becomes a functional part of your business rather than feeling like such a massive part. And obviously that's social media I've talked about, and you talked about podcasting and other things. Are there any other areas of marketing that should be sort of brought into that?
Well, I think it's worth coming back to email marketing, because that's something that if you're spending all your time on social media or creating all those posts, you might think, I don't have time to do a weekly email. You absolutely do, and you should. Luckily for me, with all my years of marketing experience, I knew from day one that I needed an email list for my business. But, I started from zero, didn't have any email subscribers. And it's only been over time by, first of all, just getting that opt-in on my website. So if you're listening to this and you haven't got an email list, step one is to think about why somebody should sign up to your list. So give them a reason. Don't just ask someone to sign up to your weekly newsletter. It's got to be mine, for example, would be sign up to my the cheer list, because it's Cheer Up Marketing, and I'm going to send you advice around marketing strategy and whatever. I don't know. Check out my website, cheerupmarketing.com. It's on there. I can't remember how I've worded it, but there's a reason you want to sign up. So at least get that on your footer and on your contact page. Start collecting emails as you get a trickle of people coming to your website. It might only be your mum and your best mate or whoever's on there at first, but that's fine. And then you want to get something like a lead magnet or an opt-in freebie on there. So think again about your ideal client. What kind of things are they Googling at the beginning of their journey that in the future they'll be ready to work with you? So kind of capture them at that initial stage. Get something up on your website like a free guide or a training. And we're going to share the links at the end, but on my website, there is a bunch of these. So if you looked at cheerupmarketing.com/free, I've got various masterclass recordings that are now opt-in freebies, PDF guides, that kind of thing. So feel free to have a look there and get some inspiration. But I think one of the time savers as well, thinking about lean marketing, is when you build an email list and you send out regular emails, you are reaching more of your audience than you would with the equivalent post on social media. So just as an example, the stats wise, I think if you get around a 30 to 40% open rate of your email list, which you should if you've got a relatively small but engaged list in the beginning, and you think about the reach on Instagram, I know that on a really good day, maybe 15% of my audience might see my stories. A lot of the time it's 6%, or on your actual feed. The algorithm is very choosy, isn't it? And you don't always get that reach. So I think if you're looking to save time but still connect with your audience and make an impact, you've got to have an email list and get your message going on that. And I'm sure Viv was talking about that, because that's one of her big things as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the big thing about email is it's consistent. So
yes.
For example, you were saying about the percentage of views and things like that on Instagram. And because Threads has just come out, my views on stories have just fallen through the floor.
Interesting, yeah.
Because a lot of people are moving or going to Threads. I mean, it's a novelty at the moment, so we'll see what happens. But it's another split for people's attention, whereas your email is not sitting there competing with social media.
Exactly.
And unless it's things like when Google changed how you can view open rates, or I can't remember what it was. Rates. There's not a lot that can change your open rates and your kind of your success on email, other than for the better. So it's definitely a much more consistent bet to place than on social media.
Yeah, exactly. And you can use the two together. So I will often maybe record a live on Instagram and save it to my grid. And then I've done an email in the last week. In fact, funnily enough, the Instagram live was about why I'm not joining Threads. And then I sent an email to my list and says, there's 8 reasons I'm not joining Threads. I've recorded a video. So you just kind of get that nice relationship working between your maybe showing up on video and spoken word and photos of you on social media. And then the email is more of the written word, although I do pop in some selfies and that kind of thing. So my subscribers know what I look like and connect with me that way. But you can use the two to drive traffic between your Facebook group and your email list and vice versa. Yeah. So I think it's whenever I send out an email, I've built that list up conscientiously from day one. And I knew that when I sent go on that first email, and I waited till I had 30 people on my list, the grand total of 30, I was like, this is worth it. That I was going to have to send an email every week. And that did feel me as someone who was then wearing all of the hats of my business and juggling everything. I was like, oh my God, an email every week. But actually sticking to that content planning process of I'm creating some long form content, which might be a blog. Also, my emails are longer than social media posts. So sometimes I'll write quite an in-depth email and that then becomes social media copy in little snippets. But by creating that asset first, it's paid off, because most of my conversions to sales for my group programs, or when I have room for a one-to-one client, that comes from email marketing. So I'll put the call to action out everywhere. but it's the emails that drives most traffic to my sales pages over social media, because I don't want you taking people off social media. That's why your link clicks are lower there. So you've really got to have that email list. If that's one takeaway from this, it will be an email list, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes. I really struggled to be consistent with mine for years. And then I started working with Jo, who has been working with me for about 8 years now. And I write the content in a Google Doc. She takes it, puts it in ConvertKit and schedules it for me. She just double checks the links. For me, finishing is the hardest part. And I found this always for marketing and things like that. So if you are struggling and you can find somebody that can finish stuff for you, that can make a big difference. So I'm just sharing that in case people are like, oh, I just can never get around to being consistent. Get somebody that can finish it for you, and also that you have accountability to.
And if you're paying them, you want to send them the work. So this is the same with me and my VA, like with the social media stuff, because I'm way less motivated to create content for that, as for the reasons we've just talked about. But I know that she has that time in to create the images in Canva, and she does all of the scheduling. So it's down to me to rip the bits of copy from the blog or the emails or whatever and give them to her. Otherwise, she's kind of twiddling her thumbs, and that's not a good use of time, is it? So you're absolutely right. If you can have somebody to do the bit that you don't enjoy, and maybe it's the copywriting. So you can hire somebody to take your other content, like podcast content or videos, and create bite-size sound bites from that copy. From that content, sorry. So if that copywriting thing is the thing that's stopping you from either doing the email or the social media posts, outsource it. Like this is a whole thing about the lean marketing idea. It's tap into where your strengths lie. Like I know I'm a fast writer. I love writing, like copywriting is my jam. So I can write an email in 10 minutes and it's a good one. I know if I have to go into Canva and try and make anything look half decent, it's hours of time. I just hate it. So my VA is that she's great at that. I hired her for that reason. So together we're like the dream team. I'm copy, she's pictures. So stick to your strengths, and then that will make the marketing go quicker if you're doing the bits that you're good at.
I love it. Okay, so could you tell us a bit more about the services that you offer people?
Sure. So I am running various group programs. So this year has been interesting because I've tried loads of different things. It's been very much of an experiment. At its very core, if you want marketing strategy, then you come to me and I have a one-to-one offer, which is a limited number of clients. But we work together on working backwards from your goals. What is it that you want to sell? What does the messaging need to be around that? Who's your ideal client? And what kind of campaigns do you need to put out there to meet that objective? So I do that one-to-one. And as I mentioned, the positive psychology thing, that always comes into play with my clients, because whether or not you think you need it, when it comes to either getting some of the hard work done, or you come up against imposter syndrome, or there are going to be challenges, you need that mindset coaching as well. So I tend to blend the two. I have the odd client that comes to me for just positive psychology, and that's cool. We do a different thing, like a 6 months together. So that's kind of my top offer. I also have a mastermind called the Generator Mastermind. So that is for people who are looking to go for their first 6-figure year. So figuring out what their marketing strategy needs to be. There is pos psych in there as well. And that's a 6-month group as well. And I do an email marketing online program. I also run occasional ad hoc sprints. So if we're trying to go together as a group to get some marketing campaigns live and launch some stuff, I do that. Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell. And I'm also creating some passive income products at the minute as well. So I'm very busy, but it's all good. So, some online guides and things for sale on my website. That'll be coming very soon.
That's a very big nutshell that everything's in.
Yeah, I know. I do it all in 20 hours a week. But I think because I know why I'm doing it, so I really have tapped into that energy of this is exciting for me. It's creating the lifestyle that I want. And honestly, I don't compromise on my wellness and the well-being, because I know how important that is. Like before coming to record this, I only started work at 11:20 today. So I went to the gym first thing, even though I've got this massive list of things to do. But I know coming off the back of that, something that makes me feel good, although there wasn't any time for the sauna today, sadly, that kind of pushes me to feel like I can work quicker, be more productive, show up with some energy on your podcast. It's really important. So I think when you know what you're going for in business and you carve out some time for yourself to work on that inner stuff or feel good, then you can get way more done than you ever imagine. So, I don't have any childcare or a nanny, or it's just me, my VA, and now my online business manager.
And just out of curiosity, obviously you've got a lot of products there. How do you do your marketing when you are juggling so many things that you offer?
So I definitely utilize that plan that I've just mentioned around, it goes out on email. I try and create the long form content first, and then I divvy it up and give it to my team now. So with my VA taking care of scheduling the social media stuff, like that's hours of stuff off my plate. But I'm always working backwards in terms of like the dates in my calendar. And we're coming up to summer holidays at the time of recording this. And I don't really do any client work in August. And I have minimal time to do like back end of the business stuff. So I always think to September as well, like what am I actually selling in September? So that's going to be the mastermind, like finally enrolling the last few people for that. So I've got to work backwards from that and think, okay, what moving parts do I need to hit the numbers on there? So it's actually going to be a masterclass. So I'm going to need emails to promote that masterclass. I know what my numbers are in terms of people I want to get on it for that launch and what the conversion is. So I work on the email content. And then I will break that down and give it to various people like my VA to do the social media stuff. But I'm focusing always on that key message. Like, what is the one big thing that my ideal client for this thing that I'm selling needs to understand? And how can I hit them with it in as many different ways as possible? So a masterclass, email campaign, social media stuff, talking about it on podcasts, doing guest expert trainings, that kind of thing. Does that answer the question?
Yeah,
marketing strategy.
It's something because I'm juggling quite a few different things, and I'm a big fan of sort of Elizabeth Goddard's approach as well, where she's got lots of different things. And I know some people are stressing that, just have a couple of core offers, but actually for others it works better to have lots of different ones. So it's just really interesting to hear how you juggle that. Yeah, I definitely don't have as many as Elizabeth. And it really is a new addition this year because I have the budget now to get this online business manager. So she has been building out programs and the funnels in the back end. I use Kartra. So that, and again, investing in her, like she's waiting for me to send her stuff. So that really has helped me to move projects forward that I've procrastinated on. Or, just left because, to be honest, they weren't like the key revenue generating tasks in my business. That's always been the one-to-one has been my main money spinner and the way that I've liked to work with clients. So really throwing in these more group programs and passive income is an experiment for me, but I've needed that extra team support to get those things live. But yeah, I think it's always been helpful for me just to have those core things. But I'm excited to try new stuff. And ultimately, if I can scale my business, like we all want to stop trading time for money, right? Like, well, I think most of us do. I don't know if your freelancing listeners want to like invest in group programs or create memberships and stuff. But I always believe it's if you can get your house in order in terms of your core offers and that they sell really well, focus on that, bring in that consistent money, and then you can look at experimenting with adding other things into the mix. Perfect. Thank you. Final question. Where can we find you on? So I'm on Instagram at Cheer Up Marketing. I'm on LinkedIn, Kelly Cookson. I'm also on Facebook under the same name. And I have a free Facebook group, which at the moment is focused on email marketing. So it's called From Spam to Wham, Email Marketing Community. So you can come over there if you want to learn more about that. And I've mentioned it already, but my website is cheerupmarketing.com. And if you go to /free, you'll see all of my freebies on there. And I've got a new guide, which is doing really well, which talks to a lot of the things we've been talking about in this podcast. So it's called 10 Hacks to Fast Track Your Business Growth. It's a PDF, and I've done a little video walkthrough for you. So it just talks in more depth about saving hours of time with your marketing strategy, how you can live more. Who doesn't want to live more? And if you're feeling stuck in your business and your marketing, there's some really practical things that you can start implementing straight away. So I'd have a look at that, which is also on cheerupmarketing.com/free. That sounds very up the freelance lifestyle kind of audience. Rose. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm feeling very curious now. I'm going to have to go have a look at my marketing now and check that it's all lean. So thank you so much. Some really good tips there. Have a lovely week, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Freelancers Tea Break. I hope you found it useful. If you want to connect with other freelancers, do come join us in the Facebook group, The Freelance Lifestylers. It's completely free and really lovely and supportive. You can also find out more information on freelancing at freelancelifestyle.co.uk. And as always, I'd really appreciate it if you were able to take a moment to leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice.